We have a loaded show coming your way on today's edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Thanks for hanging out here with us. Here's everything coming up, by the way, on the Eagles Now Rundown. Going to talk about two big decisions that await for Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles. Also want to talk about Jason Kelce's offensive line intel. He was on WIP this morning, and he shared some of his concerns about the lack of depth along the Eagles' offensive line and his scouting report of Tyler Steen, who figures to replace Mekhi Becton at right guard. That serves as a natural segue to some breaking news that just came down on this Thursday, March 27th, as the Eagles have made a sneaky good signing along the offensive line. So Jason Kelce shares his concerns. Howie Roseman hears that, and he says, we got to pick up an offensive lineman. I joke, but seriously, Kelce made some good points, and that's why I like this signing for Philadelphia. And then finally, all of the jabronis up in Boston, they're in shambles because the A.J. Brown trade idea to the Patriots is dead. Before we get started, the most subscribers that we picked up on a single show this week, 40, when we talked earlier about a different offensive line acquisition when Kendall Lamb signed with Philadelphia. We picked up 40 new subscribers on that show. On today's video, let's crush and annihilate that number. I got you covered with the best Eagles content right here on YouTube, so lock us in and hit that sub button. As for those big decisions that await for Philadelphia, one of them we've talked about a few times here. The other we haven't yet. I've mentioned it briefly, but we're going to go into further detail. Obviously, with Dalas Goedert, his future is uncertain. The Eagles have a couple of different avenues in which they can take here. They can trade Dalas Goedert. They can release him. Or they can sign him to a contract extension. And of course, when you talk about Goedert the player, there's some good, there's some bad. He's one of the top tight ends in football. He's a really gifted pass catcher. He's lethal and really talented with picking up yards after the catch. Very difficult to bring down and take to the ground. Different player stylistically than Zach Ertz, who couldn't break any tackles, didn't pick up a lot of yak. He's also different from Ertz because he's a really valuable blocker in the pass game and in the run game. And in the NFL playoffs, despite Dalas Goedert missing a lot of time, more on that in a moment, he has been a great big game playoff performer. He's actually number 2 all time in franchise history in playoff receiving yards behind Devontae Smith. And this playoff run that we just witnessed, Dalas Goedert was a big part of that. He had some huge plays to help lift the Eagles to the Super Bowl throughout that playoff run. You think about one of the biggest plays of the 2024 season. It was that 60, 70-yard crosser from Jalen Hurts against the New Orleans Saints, which helped the Eagles win that game, and they picked up a huge win at the time. As far as the bad with Goedert, he does miss a lot of time, and this has been the story of his career since the Eagles took him out of South Dakota State. 15 games missed over the last 3 years, so the lack of availability at his price tag is problematic. And he's about to be 31 years old this upcoming season, and with that cap hit being $11.8 million and missing a lot of games, that's problematic. If you were to come back to Philadelphia on a discounted rate, I'd be for it if the price is right. You look at his numbers the last 4 years, and when you're the 4th highest paid tight end in the National Football League at 14.25 per season, and in 2024, you're under 500 yards. In 2023, you're under 600. In 2022, over 700, 2021, over 800, but you're missing all those games from Howie Roseman's chair. That's a little bit of an issue because you go back to the price tag. Goddard's making $14.25 million, 4th highest paid tight end in the NFL behind Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, and George Kittle. And Goedert hasn't been close to those players as far as production goes for the most part. Now, is he better than a David Njoku, a Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz, Noah Fant? For sure. And hopefully if the Eagles do bring him back, because I'm thinking, can the Eagles find a way to keep him? It'll be for a much cheaper price tag than the current number as far as base salary, average annual value, and cap hit than what he's at right now. But going into the 2025 season, the Eagles have to make a decision as far as the future of Dalas Goedert. And going into the draft, I think they have to make that decision. You know, they signed Harrison Bryant, a tight end in free agency. They signed Kylan Granson, a tight end in free agency. It's a deep tight end class. They were meeting with tight ends at the NFL Combine, so when you connect the dots, it seems as though the Eagles are comfortable moving off of Goedert, or at least they're preparing to move off of him. But what's been the holdup? If there's not a trade market, do you want to cut him free? As for the other big decision, what are the Eagles going to do with former first-round pick Jordan Davis and the looming fifth-year option? Because by May 1st, the Eagles have a decision to make. Let me say that again. By May 1st, the Eagles have to decide what to do with that Jordan Davis fifth-year option because it's not cheap. The deadline is coming up just around the corner, and if the Eagles do exercise that, it would guarantee his 2026 salary for around $12 million. And do you want to pay around $12 million for a player who you're not sure if he's a three-down guy or if he's a two-down player? And last year in 2024, he only played in 37% of the Eagles' defensive snaps. He's supposed to be an elite run stuffer, but he doesn't grade out well in that area, according to Pro Football Focus. I will give credit where credit is due, though. Jordan Davis improved a lot year over year, from 2023 to 2024. Even in that midway portion of the season, it felt as though when you watched him play, he found a different groove. He found some confidence, and he played really well. He is also not a finished product, so he can continue to get better. But do you want a player who plays less than 40% of the snaps at $12 million? With Milton Williams getting a bag, you, of course, have to assume, or at least pose the question, will Jordan Davis play a little bit more? Which would make paying him that a little bit easier to stomach. In 2024, the Pro Football Focus numbers, overall grade of 66.6, that was 46th among 219 interior defensive linemen, pass rush grade of 65, run defense grade of 58.3. He can get better there. He should. He's 6'6", 340. He had 10 pressures and 1 sack. Given that he's a mountain of a man, you would imagine that he'd be able to dominate and take over games. Hasn't been what he's been able to do. That's been his running mate in Jalen Carter. Here is what Clint Hurt, Eagles defensive line coach, though, said about Jordan Davis. High praise. He's not even remotely close to being a finished product. If you think guys are finished products by the time that they are in their second or third year in the league, then you're completely wrong. These guys will continue to ascend and get better. And I think there's room for Jordan Davis to get better, especially if he gets in better shape, because the talent is there. But that $12 million number, it's a lot on that fifth-year option. So should the Eagles exercise that, E for exercise, P for play it out. If they don't, it's a team option. This upcoming season will be the final year of Jordan Davis's rookie contract. If you want some Eagles Super Bowl gear, get it today at chatsports.com/EaglesSB. If you watched our shows yesterday, joined us for the live program, you saw that I was wearing some Eagles Super Bowl gear. Jalen Hurts hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. There's all types of different shirts, hoodies, hats, and jerseys available, all thanks to our friends at Fanatics. So you plug in that link, it'll take it to Fanatics. Fanatics knows that Eagles Now and Chase Senior sent you. Get hooked up today. Swag up, swag out. Chatsports.com/EaglesSB. All right, let's talk some offensive line here. You know I love the big boys in the trenches. Jason Kelce was asked about the Eagles' offensive line going into 2025 when he was on WIP this morning, and he had some interesting things to say. Here's what he said about Steen and the offensive line in general. I would like to see Steen be a little bit more consistent. He's very good at times, and other times he'll get a little bit out of balance or he'll get beat, but he's a good player and somebody I certainly am happy going into a season playing. My concern a little bit is that you lose Mekhi Becton, you lose Fred Johnson, you had the Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson injuries going into the Super Bowl, and after that, I want to see who is going to replace this depth issue. Who's going to be the Tyler Steen this year if Steen is a starter and somebody needs to play? Is this a major drop-off that really hurts the unit? It's fair for Kelce to say that. Totally fair. Because the Eagles' depth concerns along the offensive line are legit. That's what happens when you lose Mekhi Becton, who was one of the top guards in football last year and made that seamless transition to right guard. That's what happens when you lose your backup offensive tackle in Fred Johnson. That's also why I expect Howie Roseman to draft at least one offensive lineman in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. Starting-wise, you're in a great spot. Jordan Mailata is one of the top left tackles in the game. Landon Dickerson is one of the top left guards in the game. Cam Jurgens, contract year, I think the Eagles will give him an extension. One of the top centers in football. Tyler Steen, the jury is out, but we've seen some good moments. And Lane Johnson is the best right tackle in all of football. Now, sometimes it's difficult to gauge how an offensive lineman performed when you look at the Pro Football Focus grades. I thought Steen stepped in very well in the NFC Championship game. Other times that his number was called, he performed pretty well, but like Kelce said, he has to be more consistent. The Pro Football Focus numbers are not pretty. Overall grade of 40.6, pass blocking grade of 37.7, run blocking grade 50.6. He does have some positional versatility, 122 snaps at left guard, 173 at right guard, so he can play both. And in college at Vanderbilt and Alabama, he played offensive tackle. When the Eagles took him in the third round, they did list him as a guard, and they feel as though that is his future. On the plus side, didn't give up a sack, didn't give up any quarterback hits. But speaking of the Eagles' offensive line depth, they made a much-needed move today. According to Jeff McLane, great Eagles beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, who for some reason blocked me on X. Jeff, what did I do to you? I have no idea. He broke the news. Matt Pryor returning to the Eagles on a one-year deal. And Matt Pryor last year had to step in for Nate Davis with the Chicago Bears, who flamed out with that organization. It was ugly. Pryor started 15 games, and he played very well. He had an overall PFF grade of 69.9, pass blocking grade of 78.1, run blocking grade of 65.9. He did give up 7 sacks, committed 7 penalties, but did not give up a quarterback hit. And I think that he is better suited along the interior. He's 6'7", 330 pounds. He's a little bit slow. So when he matches up against quicker interior defensive linemen, he can struggle a little bit. The same can be said when he's on an island at that tackle spot. The Eagles are bringing in a player who they did draft in 2018 out of TCU. He played 27 games for the Eagles. He started 10 games at tackle and at guard. Spent a couple of years with the Colts after they traded him away for a 6th-round pick. 1 year with the Niners, last year with Chicago. And he's very experienced. He's a really good scheme fit because he's more of that road grader. In this offensive system, I think that he can have more success run blocking than he did last year in Chicago, or with Chicago when he was fine. As a pass blocker, he was pretty good. But some of those questions that Jason Kelce presented and talked about, some of them are being addressed by bringing in Matt Pryor. Going to be a short-term deal, worth very little money. He can play both guard spots. He can play offensive tackle. He has familiarity with this organization, and he's coming off a season in which he played very well. So this is a sneaky good, under-the-radar signing for the Eagles. They're bringing in Matt Pryor, who started a bunch of games and played a lot in his NFL career, a veteran. And earlier this week, they signed Kendall Lamb, who last year in 7 starts with Miami also played pretty well. And Howie's bringing in these players without having to spend that much money. We round out with this. Finally, all the jabronis in Boston and in New England can stop talking about an A.J. Brown trade to the New England Patriots. I said so many times here on the show, it ain't happening. Eagles just won a Super Bowl. They signed A.J. Brown to a contract extension last offseason alongside Devontae Smith. He's a top 3 wide receiver in the game. He's been pivotal to the Eagles' offensive success. Every year that he's been in Philadelphia since Howie Roseman fleeced the Titans with that draft night trade going into the 2022 season, he's had more than 1,000 receiving yards. He is a one-of-one unique player who's still in the midst of his prime, and the Eagles were never trading him to the New England Patriots. But people who cover the Patriots kept talking about how A.J. Brown has a good relationship with Mike Vrabel and how A.J. has had his issues with Philadelphia as far as being a drama queen, which I think has always been overblown. What did the Patriots do this week? They gave a bag to Stephon Diggs coming off a torn ACL. He's going to be their wide receiver one. They paid him, and they're not getting A.J. Brown. He is ours in the city of Philadelphia. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did and you're still watching, give me a real one.